Okay, right. It's Oasis time. Tell us about this.
Yeah, Oasis Knebworth 1996 does exactly what it says on the tin. 2 nights, 250,000 people in total. Directed by Jake Scott. A lot of Scots in the programme this week, because you're doing Ridley Diddley next week, is that right?
I'm interviewing him later today for inclusion in next week's programme, along with Jodie Comer.
And, Jake Scott, prolific music video maker, also director of films like American Woman, which we had the star of here on the show. So Noel Gallagher is one of the producers. We hear much from him and Bonehead, not from Liam in the same way. Film uses extensive video archive, all edited in mind-boggling fashion, along with some dramatisation of 90s teens. We hear the voices of people recalling getting on the phone, trying to get tickets, going to the record shop, and then we see some dramatisation. I think they're dramatisations. There must be dramatisations of them talking about it was like a Willy Wonka golden ticket if you actually managed to get a ticket. We even have some stuff of people listening in their bedrooms when it was broadcast on the radio, and a bit about somebody flipping over the cassette in exactly 3 seconds between songs, which is a skill that would no longer mean anything to the younger generation today who don't know they're born. Crucially, this was pre-internet, so there isn't a swathe of cell phone footage. In fact, the film talks about how, this is in the pre-internet age, therefore everyone is at the gig because they want to be at the gig, not because they want to put it on social media that they were at the gig. I'm not a huge Oasis fan. Again, this is like we're saying about the Sopranos thing. It is generally regarded that they were at the top of their game during this 2 nights. There's some interesting observations about how they'd gone from playing smaller venues to playing places like Knebworth, which are known for the Stones and Led Zeppelin and Floyd, in almost no time at all. And we also get, famously, John Squire from Stone Roses coming on to join them for Champagne Supernova. Here is a clip from Oasis Knebworth 1996.
Champagne Supernova. Champagne Supernova comes on. Everyone loves that song. And you've got this legend of the Stone Roses playing as well. The fact that John Squire was on stage with Oasis was just mind blown.
How many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Where we were while we were getting high. Slowly walking down the hall.
Having John Squire walk on stage, being on my left-hand side, playing one of our songs was a bit of a moment for me, That probably was my Knebworth moment, I had to play it cool. All right, John, that was it. It was all right, wasn't it? It was good. But deep down, I was just like, fucking yes.
Someday you will find me.
So there's loads of split screen on the gig footage, plaudits to Dick Carruthers, and then there's backstage stuff. I mean, even for people like me who aren't fans, shots of Patsy Kensit in a golf cart, and then that terrible white jacket, which always resembled the party frock that Mick Jagger wore at the the Stones concert at Hyde Park. It kind of feels nostalgic. There are endless voices telling us that Liam was the greatest frontman of his generation, Noel was the greatest songwriter of his generation. All of that kind of gets a little bit grating, as does the endless amount of everyone from the band to the fans telling us that this was the most important gig ever, and nothing was ever like it before, and nothing would ever be the same afterwards, which isn't true, but then, that's fine. There's the moment on stage in which Noel says, this is history right here, right now, and they talk about crowd rapture. And it is, there is no question that if you're going to watch, Oasis Knebworth 1996, the chances are you're an Oasis fan. And I always feel very sniffy about being, if there's a band that means so much to so many people, the fact that I'm not a fan is neither here nor there. I mean, because, clearly they hit a nerve with their fans. And it is true that when you watch it kind of from the outside, as it is for me, because, most of the songs. I mean, the fact is they are very, very catchy songs. But when you see the way in which the crowd are reacting and, and loving it, that's great. It's my idea of hell on earth. I'm terrified of crowds. And there's a bit when everyone's chucking, it becomes like the biggest litter fight. And it's just like, yeah, okay, they're not for me at all. But the film is, I think, a very, very sort of well put together, if frankly, hagiographic account of the 2 nights at Knebworth. And if what you want to do, if you're a fan and what you want to do is relive that moment of kind of fandom bliss, then the film does that for you. I mean, it's not Summer of Soul, which I still think is the kind of film that would, that would work for anyone. For this, I think, same with Sopranos, you have to have been a Sopranos fan to get the film spin-off. In the case of this, you'd have to be an Oasis fan. I have watched loads of rock documentaries in which I wasn't a fan of the bands, but I've still found the documentaries interesting. I still think, you look at something like Dig, and it's just brilliant. This is absolutely for, and largely about the fans, actually. It is very interested in the fan. And there are people, who have Oasis lyrics tattooed on their arm, and, who am I to question that kind of devotion? Because, the things I love, seriously, if somebody made a documentary about the Live Stiffs live gig with Elvis Costello, Ian Dury, Nick Lowe, Reckless Eric, I would want to watch that over and over again. And if that's how you feel about Oasis, this will do that. For me, not so much.
I was listening to a great podcast of it was Rick Rubin interviewing Ringo Starr.
Oh yeah,
and Ringo is talking about going to see the Beatles before he was in the Beatles,
yes.
and shouting out. They did requests, and he would shout out and heckle them. It was just a great story. Stuff I actually hadn't heard before. Anyway, we have learned.
Can I just say there is a story? I don't know whether this is true, that Pete Best, who was there before Ringo, that Pete Best did at one point release an album called Best of the Beatles. But I don't know whether it's true or not.
Should be. Definitely should be, even if it isn't.